It's time for Inside the Patch with your Las Vegas Raiders. Here's Gnarley Charley.
Well, welcome to Inside the Patch. It's Gnarley Charley. I got to thank our sponsors, Porta Subs, 50 years and still slicing, plus Fresno Rack and Shelving, nice rack. And, of course, Valley Children's Hospital, where you can support the kids at Valley Children's Hospital real easy by texting my name, Gnarley, to 51555, and you can make a donation. So the last couple of weeks, the professor of all basketball, Mitch Adams, is with us. And, Mitch, you have been bringing guests in. You've been talking about the perfect rotation of basketball. I'm sure you have it right there, don't you? Let me see that thing. Look, it's just right there. Perfect rotation. Love it. It's a basketball training device that you can get through Mitch, and we'll talk about that later. But another perfect thing is a perfect running route when you have a wide receiver like number 81, Morris Bradshaw. Is the only Bradshaw in the NFL that I ever liked, because the other one I didn't like, you know? So, former Raider, and Mitch, give us the introduction. I know he played for the Patriots. I know he played for the Raiders, and he did a brief stint with the Invaders, and I want to hear about all that.
Oh, boy. Wow. I mean, I'd introduce him as one of my better friends, my mentor, Morris Bradshaw, Ohio State running back, then wide receiver, Oakland Raider draft pick, fourth round, Mo? 1974, 8 years with the Raiders. Yeah. I mean, just all around great guy and tequila connoisseur, my man, Morris Bradshaw.
Hey, Morris, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It was very good.
Well, Mitch knows you better than anybody. So go ahead, Mitch. Let's hear some dirt on Morris.
No dirt. Morris and I keep those things to ourselves. But Mo, just from my vantage point, I know we've talked about it before, but just thinking about it today, you played for College Hall of Fame coach Woody Hayes, Hall of Fame coach John Madden, Hall of Fame coach Tom Flores, and Hall of Fame coach, owner, every jack of all trades, Al Davis. I mean, what similarities did these guys have, and what sort of traits did they have to be the leaders of men that they were?
Wow, complex. His first word that kind of sort of comes to mind. How fortunate I was to be able to get a progression of coaches and personalities, if you will. At the time in my life that I did, and a lot of that interaction carried over, off of the football field, into your life, into my life anyway. Each one dynamic in their own way, I think. But just to be around that kind of greatness, on a consistent basis every day. Hopefully you pick up something from that.
Did Woody coach with fear? Did you fear Woody Hayes? I mean, it seemed like that Lombardi kind of older style might involve a little bit of fear. I don't know. Yeah,
I think it was more, fear of failure. Well, I did, but you didn't want to face his ire. He was that big of a personality. And I was 17 years old when I went there. I really didn't know anything.
Wow.
But maybe there was some fear factor there, but I think it was more the tradition at Ohio State. And, he had a different coaching style.
What about those stickers? Did you have stickers on your day on the helmet like they do now?
Yeah. Those were. I hope I get this right. They were significant of a big play in a game that you made. I don't know. Do you get two helmets now with all the stickers, or or how they do?
Oh,
that?
I guess.
It's a team reward. For excellence, for consistency. These were the things that I remember that I took away from Ohio State. Didn't play as I would have liked, but that's history now.
Well, the other night when Ohio was playing, I felt like the coach wanted to peel a couple stickers off somebody's helmets because they're like, "Come on, man, make the play," But once it's on, you can't take it off, right?
Well, you shouldn't be able to take it off. Yes, you can lose everything that you did at some point. No, it was it was a very entertaining game, I thought, and it was heartbreaking to lose in that manner. But what an exciting game, as a college player, and to be on a stage of that magnitude, and for just the entertainment value of the game back and forth. Win, lose, or draw, it's something that you're going to live with, and carry with you for the rest of your life. But, you win some and you lose some, and you try to win more than you lose. It was an exciting game. I feel for the kicker, and you hope it never comes down to a play of that magnitude. But in big games like that, doesn't it always seem to?
Right.
Yeah. Now, you played in some big games in the 70s that didn't always go the Raiders' way until 1976. Can you talk about those teams and the greatness that those teams were comprised of? Because I know you've told me that practice was harder than games because you had so many top-notch all-stars on offense and defense. So you have a collection of men in the 70s that get all the way to the championship game. Was it, 9 times the Raiders went to the championship game, or 8 or 9 times in the 70s, and only came away with the one or two, 19, the one Super Bowl. And
I don't know.
Super Bowl 11.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number. It was a instrumental time, I think, in the development of the Raiders that we all grew up loving and caring for. But, looking back on it, and you look at the talent that was on the team, and, you have to remember back at this time, there was no free agency like you have today in the NFL. You had you had a nucleus of players, and you kind of, could plug every now and then with guys, and I think this is one of the areas that the Raiders excelled in. But, guys that other teams couldn't use or couldn't utilize their skill or their talent, and the Raiders seemed to have an ability to bring guys in at the right moment, at the right time in their career for the right need, if you will. It's exciting that it always comes down to that one game, and then finally. Beating Pittsburgh in 1976 in the AFC Championship game in Oakland after losing to them 2 years in a row, and watching them go to the Super Bowl, you knew you were on that path. Very good deal. Now that was, I'm a young guy at that point, 3 years in the league, so you're basically just following the herd, if you will, doing what everybody else does. Had no idea. Yeah, it was a very good football team that year, 13-1 during the regular season.
Well, Tom Flores was your receiver coach, correct? And then he became your head coach. I went to Tom Flores' high school and played in Tom Flores Stadium, so I've got a connection to him from Sanger High School. And to see him make the Hall of Fame, I mean, you got to meet him. He was a brand new coach, and all the way to being the head coach. I bet you were pretty close with him, I would think.
Yeah, I guess in a way, as a player and a coach, you grow that way. But kind of embarrassed now. But just being brutally honest, when I came to team, I had no idea who Tom Flores was. He was the receivers coach. I did recall one day in practice. I think I mentioned to Cliff Branch. I said, "Hey, Flo throws a pretty nice ball." Yeah. But stop. Just in practice, and your coach is the caliber of Tom Flores, a player in the league, and who excelled in the league, and understood the mental side of the game, and not just the X's and O's. it's a hard thing to explain, but it was a very interesting environment looking back on it, to have been associated with and in. And then, to be around, that much greatness on a daily basis. Think about that. I mean, and as I said, I hope some of it rubbed off somewhere, but it was a great time. John Madden was the head coach, and Tom, my first 5 years in the league, and Coach Flores, Tom was the position coach. So, there was a relationship, I think, that you developed there. But then he became the head coach, and there's a relationship that you developed there, too. So, the roles changed at that point. And, but fortunately, I had an opportunity to stay with the Raiders for a period of time and go through a maturing process. Be able to, later in life, understand some of the stuff I didn't understand back then a little better.
You got to be nervous when, after the offseason, they bring in another couple of receivers, and every year you're like, I got to make the team. I mean, every year you got to prove yourself, and it's you don't want to hate the new guys, but you also don't want them to take your spot either. So there's that competition.
No, yeah, nice that you recognize that. I think your rosters back then for training camp were kind of sort of unlimited, and didn't really think about it at the time. You had confidence in your own abilities and the things that you did and what was available. But later on, I looked at it and said, "Wow, they were bringing in all these people, and I guess it was my job that they were looking for, because none of us could beat Alfred or Cliff or so that those were the spots. It was that third spot, fourth receiver spot. So whether you enjoy it, how to contribute in other ways. So they called it special teams back then. I guess they still do today. The joke is, who doesn't want to be special? So yeah, I'll do that. That's football.
What about Tatum? Did Tatum ever knock you out of practice, or was he cool to his own team?
No, we were always on the same team. Jack, just so something like that doesn't, get too far. He never knocked anybody out.
Right.
Jack, many other players that came through the Raiders, he was, a complex guy. No more complex than any of the other guys that came through, but in your own unique way. And I think that was a great trait that the Raiders portrayed. They didn't try to change you. You were almost encouraged to be. I mean, not crazy, but to be an individual,
right.
To be you. And everyone's talent level was a little different. But the amazing thing, and this is, I think, is really important when we talk about the mystique of the Raiders and that sort of thing. At least this is how I feel about it. That in doing so and encouraging you to be unique and to be yourself, the Raiders had this thing that I just say, on Sunday at 1:00. Everybody was about one thing, and that was winning. Regardless of your religious background, ethnicity, those things mattered. But at 1:00, everyone was about one goal, and I think that was amazing to be able to create that environment that was still. Characters, very, very. You look at it and wonder how it all stays together. But it was an amazing time, Charlie. It was, I mentioned this to Mitch before, that just feel very, looking back on it now, very fortunate. The individuals that I had an opportunity to meet and learn from. And when I say learn from, they were very willing to share knowledge and information.
Has free agency ruined that camaraderie that teams were able to foster over the years, such as the Raiders in the 70s? Because, as you mentioned, you had that nucleus of players that stayed together for a long time, and now guys are switching teams like days on calendars. It's free agency. I mean, for individuals, it's great because you can make money, go out and to the highest bidder, but are teams being cut short of their greatness because they're not allowing that team to almost like a full bake, like if you're baking a cake and you pull it out early. I mean, I just see people moving too much, and I don't see that camaraderie. And so is that? I know it's not ruining the game, but the camaraderie that you were able to have in the 70s, I don't see that sort of happening these days. Is that accurate?
Oh, I think it's very accurate. I would agree with you. I wouldn't use the word ruin. I would just say it's different. It's very different. The game's different. Players are different. Everything about it from the time that I spent is very different. But I'm sure that the time that I played for guys that went before me thought that was a very different time. This was the NFL in its Wild Wild West days. We made up the rules as you went along sometimes. So, but the game. Well, probably because of the money, it just seems to be more rigid in that regard. I wonder sometimes, because of money and control. If we sometimes aren't allowing greatness to really come out in the game because of what you're trying to control, what you're trying to do on offense and defense, and there's time factor, only so many plays you can run, all the analytics and things that seem to go into it today. But as far as the camaraderie, I would say guys are still going to gravitate towards one another. If you have common interests, common likes, I would venture to say it's probably a different, relationship because of the way it came about than, the era that I played in. We weren't poor, but nothing like the money today. But I think guys would bond together. I don't know what guys do today. I would have the guys over at the house here, maybe once a week, once every other week, and my wife would make spaghetti or whatever, and we'd hijack a flight somewhere. I got the fight on over here, and guys would come by and that kind of thing. I think maybe they still do that today. I would hope that they would still do that today. But when I came here to the Raiders, Mitch, and you grew up here, a lot of guys that I became friends with, we weren't born or raised here. We came here from other places and made the Northern California or the East Bay our home. I know the economics are a little different today.
Right.
It was just a different world.
Speaking of that camaraderie, I think we saw that camaraderie really strong Monday night when DeMar went down after that tackle on Monday Night Football. The response, the medical response, I know you've been around some guys blowing knees out, but probably nothing ever to that caliber. What thoughts were going through your mind? And
well,
can you talk about feeling that you got from what was happening and then the medical response?
It was frightening. It was a frightening experience. It's something I think that as a player, you didn't always think about it, but I think, I know I did. You acknowledged that something could happen, but somewhere in your brain, you said it wasn't going to happen to you, like we do a lot of other things.
Right.
The biggest fear, especially just watching how it unfolded, and I don't know if some of the other injuries, more celebrated injuries, not celebrated, but talked about more in the press, that have been going on in the league, and does that compound, that feeling? I was very shaken by it. I think it is the biggest fear that one can ever have, that one would lose their life on the field, and with the understanding that with the way the game is played, it's very possible, I guess. Now, the other side of it is, and I think the NFL can be applauded for this, and that is the preparation and the response that we saw. As far as the technology and the medical staff and the preparedness, that they had at that stadium, and you can't train for things like this. This is stuff, that knowledge that you have, and when it happens, you just go into it and start doing what you think you need to do next. There's no training for it. And I think the medical staffs for both teams, the hospital, these folks should be applauded. And the NFL, way back, Charlie, remember, 1979, I dislocated my hip in Kansas City, third game of the season. And, the thought process was, at the time, dislocated hips aren't something that typically happens in a football game. It's more, I think, more prevalent in a car accident. But
right.
My great fortune at that time was that Kansas City, their stadium, was one of the few stadiums, may have been only one or two in the NFL at that time, that had an X-ray machine on site. And the thought process, we're going to the hospital, and I think the doctors all felt at that point that the joint was probably blown up, and you're going to go right, take an X-ray, and we'll go right into surgery. And when they found out there was an X-ray machine there, they took an X-ray and found out that the joint was intact. It was just the bone was just sitting outside. So it sounded real simple. I said, well, let's just put it back in. So yeah.
Were you there when Darryl Stingley and Jack Tatum collided? Were you part of that?
Yes, I was there that day.
That's what I thought of. That's what I thought of when I saw Monday night. I was like, man,
that was for Darryl to just lie there on the ground, motionless for a period. And these are the thoughts that go through your head. Now it was a preseason game, and I mean, even with the severity of that injury, we ended up finishing that game. Which at that time, I don't know what mindset I was in, but I was in a mindset the other night that I said, there's no way they can continue to play. No way. So I applaud the NFL and medical staffs for both teams. And I think these kinds of things are important because of the press, because of the violence of the game and the injuries. These are the biggest things that we fear. But I think it's also good to know on the other side, the preparedness and the thought process that goes into this. So,
yes,
it's wow. In your lifetime, maybe, was it a guy named Chuck Hughes back in the 71? The only player.
Yeah.
So, wow. Yeah. Definitely don't want to see that again.
Well, what are your thoughts about the Las Vegas Raiders next year? Where's your head on that right now?
Whoa. Well,
I know. I'm a Derek Carr lover fan, and I'm having a hard time with all of it. I got my Devontae Adams jersey on. I don't know. I'm a host of a Raiders show, and I just don't feel good right now. Because it's like one of our families gone. It's like a divorce. I don't know.
Well, yes, we've been in that where you part ways with the team, and guess we all have egos, and you think that it's the worst decision that the team ever made. When they get rid of you,
right?
It's a. The only way I can come to terms with it today, it's a business, and it's a business move. We've all read the stories that are out there, reasons why not.
Yeah.
If we get around to saying that, what it's all about is winning, then, maybe some of the decisions that you're making make sense. But, we do, as fans, if you will, we do like, players and teams. When I came along, I think, the NFL was more team centric, mainly because you didn't have to, and there wasn't a lot of player movement. But today, I think it's pretty safe to say, because, fantasy leagues and things of that nature, that it's pretty much player centric. And
yes,
Brett Favre kind of proved that with, when he left Green Bay, went to New York or whatever, but, his jersey sales just, I guess, went off the charts. I guess you look at that and say that, that there are he has a lot of fans out there, and we see what it does today with social media and that there's a whole industry that grew out of it. So, camaraderie, Mitch, it's game's different today in all the ways that we just talked about. Played differently. Where I sit today, I have to learn how to look at it differently, because I keep trying to apply things that I think I know that, don't fit this day and age anymore. So,
okay, I gotta ask Mitch this. This is for you, Mitch. Check this out. Would it be the same if Brady just happens to come to the Raiders? Is that the same as Terry Bradshaw playing for the Raiders in the 70s? Is that the same? Because I'm like, I just hear the rumor. I'm just. What do you think?
I would think not. Mo just hit it on the head. Team centric and now player centric. Brady's kind of an entity to himself,
right? And
so I think he would be received warmly. The Tuck rule certainly wasn't his fault. It was more on the rules.
Right.
But I think Stidham deserves a chance. He looked awfully good Sunday. And, he cut up the number one defense to a tune of 500-plus yards.
Yep.
And he didn't look skittish in the pocket. And I was a Derek Carr defender until I saw Stidham play on Sunday, and I'm like, wow, we've been missing something. And, I don't want to say good riddance, but that's exactly what it's going to be, because Stidham, to me, looks like he should have been in there 10 weeks ago. So, I don't know.
Well,
so I'd like to see him get a chance.
Phil Villapiano said this last week. He said, owners own, coaches coach, players play. That's it. Yeah. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And Mo, did you see what I brought out for you, Mo?
Oh, look at that!
A little bitty phone, and I can't. Is that
Oakland Invaders?
The Oakland Invaders. Yeah.
How many? Wow. You must have.
I happen to have that in my closet. Haven't worn it since the 80s.
I've never.
And
I wasn't there I was only there for a few weeks. Wasn't there very long.
Did you play in the exhibition game in Fresno at Bulldog Stadium? Because the Invaders came to Fresno in '84 for like a preseason game. It might have been exhibition, but it was the Invaders versus Oklahoma, I think, in Fresno.
I
was a little kid.
I'm pretty sure that you were a little kid.
Well, I'm a big kid now.
No, yeah,
hey,
it's the. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, man, I love talking to these guys that, I was a wide receiver in high school, and I worshipped. I knew when 81 was on there. I knew when you made. I'd have to wait for the announcer. I knew Bradshaw just made up. It's like, it's so nice to talk to you guys, the people that we grew up watching, loving, and man, that was the time when we were winning all the time too. And so it's a pleasure of mine. And that's how I get to know Mitch, because of his Legends show he did at the stadium. And it's just an honor to have you on the show today.
Well, I appreciate that. It's an honor both ways, as far as, fans were concerned. And when I parted ways with the Raiders, and this was before the team actually left the Bay Area, I want to say it was probably the 2019 season. But, I got a chance to go out and tailgate with some of the friends and neighbors that I've known over the years. And what a wonderful experience that was. I'd heard a lot about it, and I'd seen bits and pieces of it, but I was never a part of it. And, just in my progression away, I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity to experience that from a fan side. And that was also with the backdrop at that point that the team was leaving. So, I ran into incredible attitudes, if you will, attitudes of acceptance and non-acceptance, if you will. But, going through this whole retirement thing and figuring out life from here, one of the things that I picked up that many folks have shared with me, and, maybe this is true with the Raider organization also. Maybe it's time to start looking through the windshield, at a young quarterback that's developing, with the understanding that, the NFL still does stand for not for long. They'll figure you out. You've got to get better and better each week, because you just can't live. And he snuck up on anyone. This kid competed and did well, but he needs hopefully to keep growing. But instead of looking through the rearview mirror and remembering the greatness that we all grew up with, and I think that's been one of the challenges that I have had. As I said, of trying to apply a standard from a different time frame, but trying to understand the world today. Man, if I ever figure it out, I'll share it with everybody. I promise. So.
Well, you know what, Morris? I'm going to leave you with this. If you have problems with your jump shot, if you're chicken winging out, Mitch is your guy to fix it. Mitch, you got to get Morris hooked up so he doesn't lose his jump shot. How does he do that? Let's see it, Mitch.
At perfectversus.com.
There it is. It avoids the chicken wing.
Yeah, here's a great thing about Mitch. And, we, kind of pat each other on the back. But, Mitch, you asked me, I'm going to maybe embarrass myself. Hopefully I don't embarrass you. But I just remember years ago, you asked me a question one day. And you said, why me? And, when you had called and you were looking for a job, and it wasn't like he was saying, hey, I'm looking to come in and right now. He said, now I'm on a program and it's going to be, a year from now, but or several months or whatever. It was in the future. And, of course, hey, give me a call. And, do you ever remember that call? No, I don't remember the call. But I do remember seriously that you asked that question. And I don't know if I ever answered it, but I'll answer it today. And that is that you reminded me a lot of me.
Okay. Thank you.
There it is. Mitch Adams, man.
Since we're embarrassing each other, I never had a mentor in my life, outside of my dad. But Morris, you filled that role very well from day one, from the day I met you until today and beyond. You have been that for me, so thank you.
Wow. It's been a pleasure.
Guys, this is awesome. Oh, thank you, guys.
He
thank
knows
you so
all
much.
This. He knows that.
No, but I love it. I love
that.
it. Morris Bradshaw, thank you very much. Mitch Adams, the professor of all basketball skills. Yes, thank you very much. PerfectRotation.com. And thanks again. We'll see you next week of our last show right here on Inside the Patch.
We'll be back with more Inside the Patch on 1430 ESPN, your official home of the Las Vegas Raiders.